Good morning, everybody. Today I'm going to be doing a back-end cleanup on my 2016 R1M, and it's going to just make the back end of my R1M a little bit cleaner. As we see it now, this is stock. This is how we got it. It's got the stock turn signal mount and back bracket, and which holds the license plate holder way off out to the end there. So what we're going to do is we're going to clean it up and make it look really nice. So what we'll be using is JL Design's smoke collection for their back end, and I'm using the smoke amber turn signals from JL Designs and their smoke integrated tail light. I'll take out of the bag here in a moment. And then for the fender eliminator, I'm using TST Industries fender eliminators with a really nice metal bracket block off and their license plate light, so I can stay somewhat legal. And we'll get them installed in here. I'd like to say thank you to TST Industries and for their instructions. JL Designs didn't send any instructions per se with the tail light for the installation. However, there is an excellent video that an installation video that I got to watch in order to get that done. So my R1M is it's only about a month old. It's a 2016, even though it's 2017. I've only got about 400 miles on it, so I just wanted to clean it up and make it look nice. And so let's get started. So for the installation, these are the tools I'm going to use. I've got my drill here. I've got extended T-handle hex bolt hex Allen wrenches. I'm going to need a T30 Torx bit, which is that one right there. I'll need a small end screwdriver. I'm going to use my 1/16 drill bit here. I've got some other Allen wrenches, Torx bit for cleanup. I'm going to be making the installation really nice, so I'll use heat shrink. I've got a small knife, wire strippers, and my soldering tool there, so that I can make the connections nice and solid. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove the GPS data logger off the back of the pillion area for the seat. And if you can look down in there and see, there is a Torx 30 bit screw in there. So we're going to take that out so that we can remove the pillion cover for the GPS data logger. Alright, so here we go. It's a little bit difficult to get into that. And there we go. So there's the Torx bit. Alright, so once you've removed both of the screws out of the data logger's cover seat, then all you have to do is slide it forward and it will lift straight up. and exposing the underside there. So that's what that looks like. As a note, so if you need to use your pillion seat for a passenger on your R1M, you're going to have to remove the data logger and the GPS cover from your R1M. So after you've removed the two T30 Torx bit screws on either side of your cover there, you're going to slide it forward to expose that. And this whole control unit is going to have to become dismounted to expose the bar for your pillion seat to lock to, which is under here. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to remove the seat in order to gain access to everything in here. So if you pull back your seat, you're going to see a 5mm Allen X key here, and so you just remove that on both sides. And once you've got them out, then which will allow you to lift the seat straight up this way and slide it out, exposing everything here. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take a Phillips head #1 and we're going to remove these push pop rivets that are here, here, and then there's two more, one here and on the other side. You can actually see them if you take, slide that off there so you can see them a little bit better. Okay. So when you do this, sometimes they spin, but so you might have to put your kind of hard to do this with one hand. So in order to get it started to back out of the hole, sometimes the rivet just spins. So you may have to stick your finger under here and pull up, give it upward pressure like this, in order to have the threads catch as you're removing it with your #1 Phillips. So once you've gotten them, all four of the pushed rivets backed out, that's about as long as it comes out. Don't use excessive force because they are just plastic, and there's one piece, so you don't want to try and remove it out of it. All you're going to do is pull it out, and then you can remove the others. Slid the pillion GPS cover off in order to gain access to the other two, which I've loosened already, so we're just going to pull those out. Back. And then in order to remove this, you're going to press down so that this little D-tip pin on both sides comes underneath. now that we've removed that plastic piece, we can go ahead and disconnect the GPS, which is going to be connected right here, and this little plastic piece there to pull towards you and remove the plug. One-handed, and so now we have the GPS receiver plug off that cowl. We'll set that aside. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to remove the two side cowls, and they are held on by this plastic rivet here, here, and under here there's a bolt. See this bolt here, and then these here on each side. So we're just gonna move these. You might have to do the upwards pressure, so I need to put the camera down for a second. So this rivet here proved to be kind of difficult to get it to start biting. So what I had to do was stick my finger down in here to put pressure on one of the little tines while I was unscrewing, so that the threads would bite into the rivet holder, and then it backed out easily. This one, you needed to stick your finger under here, pull up a little bit while you're unscrewing to put the pressure on it, so that this one removes out easily as well. Now we're going to remove these bolts. These are 4mm, or you can use a 5/32 Allen. As you see, they come with these little spacers. Make sure you don't lose those spacers. So those two, and then this one underneath. Okay. So take those out. Make sure you take that spacer with it. Here as well. After you got it, and all 4 of those bolts, you see it comes with a little tab here. All you have to do is kind of work that out from that little tab, and the whole piece comes off. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the data logger off. So I'm going to disconnect the data logger. I can tuck this connector down away, and then I'm going to remove the 4 5mm bolts to remove this whole section. Once the bolts are removed, this whole section just lifts right off. Any bolts, because fishing them out is a pain. So that logger comes right off. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove this whole stock fender portion, and in order to do that, to gain access to all the stuff in here, so we're going to loosen up these. We're going to take these wires out of these clips. So push in, loosens it up. So one, and then on your R1Ms, you have this one, and that allows you to just slide that and fold it back. And then we're going to remove all 3 wires out of here to one more. Okay, so now you have your left, right, and your tail light, license plate light, and then the main harness. So turn signals, license plate light, and then your brake light, main harness. Let's move those out of the way. So we're going to disconnect the left. You push down on this little tab and it raises that up so you can pull it out. Try and do this one-handed. Kind of hard to do one-handed. Hold on, I'll be right back. Okay, so these slide over. So when you push this down, it releases the little clip. It releases the clip that's on the inside one, and so then they slide off. This one you have to, for the license plate light, you need to press that little tab there in the center. I had to use a little screwdriver to push it down, but it slid right out. So now I've got all 3, left, right, and license plate light disconnected. So next I'm going to disconnect the tail light, that's this one. So you just push in those little 2 tabs there. And 1 tab. It's just 1 tab. So in order to get my finger access in there a little bit better, I went ahead and pulled the tool holder off of the back tail light. It's nothing more than just a little rubber bushing that sits on that little hole there like that. So I just pull it off, pull it straight out, and then folded it back, and then that gave me access in order to squeeze the little detent pin on the top there, and it slid right off. So now in order to be able to pull the wires out, you're going to have to remove this tool holder, and it's got 2 little pinch grommet things here that you need to just pinch, and they will slide through. Will slide through the hole, but you need 2 hands to do that. So they were a little tight, so what I did was I grabbed a pair of needle nose pliers to pinch both sides of those on either side here, on left and right, and they slide right out of these holes pretty easily. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these 3 bolts holding that whole fender unit on. Now when you removed the 3rd bolt, your whole assembly is going to start dropping down. So what you need to do is hold it with your one hand and remove the rest of the screws with the other hand. Then you just work the wires through the hole individually. Through there. So once you get it unhooked and everything, getting the wires back through, it takes a little bit of finagling to get them through the hole. But once you just back them out, take your time, and then the whole piece will just completely come right off. So the next thing that we're going to do is we have to loosen this tray so that it gives us a little bit more access. So on the underside by the here on the back of the passenger pegs, you see this rivet here. There's one on the other side. You're going to take this rivet off, and then on both sides. I'm going to take this off on both sides, and then this big one here. So they come out fairly easy without any trouble. You got the two smaller ones from in back of the passenger pegs, and then the big one from under the center. Okay, so now we're just going to give our undertail a little bit of clearance so that we can work with the tail light to put the new tail light in. And so these two tabs, we're going to push those down and out. And it's going to come off the back there. And that's going to give us access to our tail light so that we can remove the tail light. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to pop the little push rivets here on the bottom side. So that we can remove these rivets, which are holding the tail. All right, in order to remove the tail light, you've got to push down on your tail piece a little bit there, and then it just kind of swings up. You just lift up a little bit and slide it out. And then you have your piece there. Oh my goodness, little girl. So we have this beautiful smoke tail light from JL Designs, and that is going to be absolutely phenomenal when we put it in. Very nice quality. So now we're going to take our new tail light and we're going to put it in. So you're going to take your wires, put those up through. Just kind of hard to do with one hand. Can you see it from this angle? There we go. Okay. So I'm going to take our tail light, make you orient it correctly. Bring the tail wires through, slide it in, and then at the top there's the little hook. So you're going to put that into the hook and then line up the 2 rivet holes that you removed. So it looks like that. And I've lined up the 2 rivet holes. So I'm going to go get my 2 rivets. And we're going to pop those in. Oops. So in order to make sure that these operate correctly when you push them back in, you want to have it look like this when you get ready to push in, and then you put it in place and then press the little button in so it's flush. I had to figure that out. No big deal. Okay, so now that the new smoke tail light is in, it looks pretty good. We're gonna move on to the turn signals. I already cleaned off the fins here with some alcohol, and so they are nice and clean. Even though I don't have only 400 miles on my bike, it did get a little dirty. So I cleaned those off, and now we're going to do the lineup and fitment for the turn signals. So it really looks nice. So what we're going to do is we're going to line these up underneath the fins here, and if you look, they have a little edge on them. So that little edge is going to come along this edge here, and it's going to be flushed up. But in order to do that, I have to drill the hole for the wire to go through. So I'm going to need to mark that. So I'm going to get a little bit of tape so I can mark that spot. So I'm going to take my turn signal and I'm going to temporarily mount it in place, just so I know where those wires are going to need to go in. So I'm going to use a little bit of paper tape here to hold it in place so that I can mark that. Unfortunately, I need both my hands for that, so I'll be back in just a second. Okay, so tape doesn't want to stick very well, but it's okay because I've lined up the turn signal how I want it, and then that little peak there is where I'm going to make my hole. Note that the wires don't come out of the end of it. They come out a little bit back and into it, so you can use your judgment to figure out where exactly that is, and then put the tape so it points to that little place where you want to drill your hole. Okay, so I've marked my spot, and I've got a 1 millimeter down off the fin. I've got a hole, a little mark that I've made with a punch tool. So where my wires are going to go in and where I'm going to drill. Focus. Okay, so it came out pretty good. Nice and flush, nice tight fit. Came right through. So now I'm going to do the other side. Which I've already drilled the hole. I marked it and drilled it. I hope I can see this. I can't really see it on my screen. There we go. So, just gonna run the wires through. wiped and cleaned it again. But I checked before I actually seat it on there. That looks pretty darn good. So, time to pull the tape off. Peel that tape off. Tape backer. Do not touch it. I got it nice and snug up there. Starting from this end. Perfect. Perfect. Make a good seal tight. Make sure it's nice and tight. Alright. That looks pretty darn good there too. So hopefully this 3M tape is pretty secure. Back done. Mounted anyways. Okay, so now we're gonna route the wiring so that it comes in from the inside. So we're just gonna take these and then this side. We'll do the same for this side. In from the other side of the subframe. Then we'll put our stuff back. It's looking pretty good. Alrighty, so now got all the wiring here. So I'm going to make sure that I can route it up and past each of the connectors. So I'll take it another 3 inches past each of these connectors. I'm going to shrink wrap each of the sets so that it's a nice set. Okay, so now I've heat shrink my my wires, the 2 turn signals and the brake light, and I did it color coded because it's easier to see what wire goes to which that way. So we got white left, black right, and of course red for the brake light. So there we have it. So now I'm going to take the bracket out that held the back there. Take that out, and I'm going to prep my wires in order to trim them back so I don't have too much excess, and connect them to the original harness. Right now, I think the next best thing to do would be to plug in my tail light. So I'm going to route that through my cable connector, cable management. Plug that in. Nice and snug in there. Alrighty. goes on the back. Next, I'm going to cut these back to get the connectors. Okay, so this is the part where I'm going to start doing the installation for the undertail fender eliminator kit for my license plate bracket. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these screws so I can take this plate off. And then I have to remove the battery. So I'm going to take these off, and then we'll come back. Okay, now I've taken that cover piece off. Now I'm going to remove the battery. So that means we're going to disconnecting the negative side of the terminal, then the positive side of the terminal, and then I'm going to pull these wires, this wire harness out, so that I can get access to the two screw ports that are underneath the battery here. All right, the next thing I'm going to do, now that I've removed the battery and I took the wiring harness and I just shifted it up here, is I've moved the negative battery terminal lead out of the way as well. So now I'm going to push the detent pins for these fasteners underneath here, so by pressing them in the center, and they should just pop out. Alright, so now I've removed the two detent pins from underneath, which gives us access for the license plate bracket. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to assemble the undertail license plate bracket so we can prepare it to put it underneath the bike. Okay, so we're going to take the hardware from the TST undertail mounting kit, and we're going to put it together. So I've laid out the pieces here. Got the swivel and the block off with the block off mounting hardware. This is the license plate light that I'm going to need to run because it's going to run underneath the bike, and then the two bracket pieces here, and the straight bar for the license plate bracket. Based on the instructions, that is the order of how these pieces should come together. So let's see. So we've got this piece here. We're going to start with the left L bracket portion. So it's going to be at an angle like that. And then the piece is going to be in this position with the curvy portion facing forward. Curvy on the right, straight on the left. So curvy facing forward, and then down to the bracket that we have in that position. It's going to go just like this. Curvy with the angle this way. And I'm going to put a washer and the washer and the screw. Alright, so now I've got the straight bar here in front of them, and I've got the two pieces configured as directed on the mounting instructions. So they say to use the outermost holes on the straight bar, which is going to be here, in conjunction with one of these flush mount screws and a locking nut. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So after assembling it as directed on the instructions, this is what I've got. Looks just like that with the TST logo facing outward, and it should go underneath here like so. pretty good. All right, so all I have to do is line it up. So the first thing I'm going to do is I have to run the screws through the underpan in order to connect to this. So in order not to lose the screw when I stick it down in there, I'm going to attach it to my Allen wrench with a bit of painter's tape, so that way I can just pull it off when I'm completed getting it through the hole, and that way I don't lose the washer or the nut down into the subframe. Okay, so now I've inserted it down into the hole, the opposite hole of that one. It's on this side, and it's on the Allen with the painter's tape on there, so I didn't lose the washer or the nut when I pushed it through the hole. Let's see. There we go. What I've had to do in order to make sure that I could put the additional TSD Industries license plate light underneath and run it to the electrical system, I needed to put this in before I complete the putting the bracket on, because otherwise it's going to be too tight to put in there. So I'm going to slide this behind the bracket there and take the double-sided tape off and affix it to the bracket before I snug up the other bolt to the subframe. So as you can see, I've now got the painter's tape in there. I'm going to remove those with a pair of, I'm going to just pull the painter's tape out with a pair of needle nose pliers. And underneath, I now have the license plate light, and I've got it routed up through the hole in the subframe here. Once the screws are in, I've pulled out the painter's tape and snugged down the bolts. So I have to pull out the rest of the painter tape to clear it up, clean it up a little bit. But now this is what we have with your clear shot from the back. So license plate light attached, running up through the subframe, and then license plate bracket. And it's still loose enough to adjust from side to side, and so I can get my license plate completely centered along with the bracket. Next, I'm going to put the block off in where the stock rear fender came from, and it'll fit up in here. It'll look just like this. And give it a nice clean look. So what I'm going to do is run the two flush mount bolts up from the bottom, as the instructions say, like so, and finish it off with two of the locking nuts. Okay, the block off installation is complete. I've got the nuts snugged in nice and tightly there, and the block off is in place, sealing up the undertail. Looks good. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is replace my battery and rerun the wiring. So the first thing that I can do before I put my batteries in is I will route the light wiring up this way. Get that tucked in there nicely. And yeah, I can that connector back on that pin right there, so it's nice and rounded, nice and clean. Replace the battery. Okay, I've removed the connectors from the original stock, and I'm going to strip them back and solder them into my new place, those connections here. So the first thing I'm going to do is connect them in. And I'm going to strip back some wire for each one of them, tin in the leads, and solder them on. What I will also do is put a little bit of shrink wrap around the outside of them to seal those up nicely. Alright, now that I have finished keying my solder connections and reconnecting the connectors, I've just put an added layer of tape on there for protection. We're going to reroute the cables, put the cover back on the bike over the battery. Okay, and so now all there is left is reassembly. I put the little wishbone back on there. So all that's left is reassembly. So that's what it looks like from the back right now. So we'll get it all together. Okay, so here we are, finished product. That looks freaking awesome. Here, hit the brake jack. All right, that's what we got. Come over here, turn my blinker on. So that's what we got. Looks amazing. That looks totally awesome. And then under here is where I'm going to mount my license plate, but I'm not putting that on the video. All right. Good luck, and if you have any questions, hit me up.